The focus of the integrated strategy is truly to integrate across all of those businesses, connecting the back ends in a seamless fashion so that our companies are not being presented. It's not being presented as three different companies. You're seeing a one Aflac view of how you experience a day in the life as a group customer for Aflac.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter Hyde. My guest today is Shelia Anderson. Shelia is the Chief Information Officer of Aflac, an insurance company that provides cash to help with expenses health insurance doesn't cover, like deductibles and co-payments, that earns nearly $19 billion in annual revenue. Sheila has been in her role for a bit more than 2.5 years. Across that time, she's helped mature the technology function, people, processes, and technology included. She's driven a robust cloud strategy, and she's also worked on a unified group strategy. Finally, she's also driven greater innovation with the use of artificial intelligence. I look forward to learning more about each of these topics, among others I'm sure we'll cover through this conversation. Sheila, welcome to Technovation. It's great to speak with you today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, Sheila, why don't we begin with Aflac? I would imagine that a lot of people who are watching or listening to this will have some familiarity, the famous duck and the great commercials you have with a lot of celebrities associated with them. But I would love to have, in your own words, a bit of an overview of Aflac's business as it stands now.
Perfect. Thank you for asking. So yes, we're best known for our branding campaign and our Aflac duck that we're very proud of. Aflac's vision, of course, is to create a world in which people are better prepared for the unexpected, with benefits being our primary supplemental benefits. And those cover usually the issues or the financial challenges that your primary health insurance wouldn't cover. And Aflac has been in this business for nearly 70 years, and we've been offering all of these services, and our hardworking Americans have been depending upon Aflac to deliver these services. We pay cash benefits, which is a little bit of a different approach for expenses that aren't covered by the primary health insurance. And if you think about the product lines that we serve, we have product lines for customers that include our individual. In the group space, we've expanded to include dental and vision products. We have group premier life absence management and disability solutions. We call it PLADS. And then we also have, for example, pet insurance through Trupanion. And then we also have our group voluntary benefits. Those group products, a lot of them are largely sold at the group level or through the work site, for example. One of the things that we're most proud of as a company is how we balance our mission as a company with our service mindset too. And one of the things that, of course, we love around our duck is we actually have my special Aflac duck, which people love to hear about as well. It's a robotic companion that provides comfort to children going through cancer and sickle cell treatments. And so you'll see a lot of commitment from Aflac where we've invested research into that. And then we also give a substantial amount back to the Children's Hospital of Atlanta and the Cancer and Blood Disorder Center, about $186 million to date. So we're very proud to tie in our company mission and purpose to actually giving back to the community. It's one of the real benefits of being a part of the Aflac community.
That's a really great overview and a lot of substance there that probably would be at least nuanced to our listeners. So thank you for that. I wanted to ask you a bit more about your role, Sheila. For a little more than 2.5 years, you've been the Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer of the company. Can you talk a bit about your role and what's within your responsibilities?
Yes, so I have all responsibility for all technology at Aflac. Over the years here, we've actually combined technology organizations into a single centralized organization. Aflac had grown through acquisition. Our dental and vision products that I had mentioned, our PLADS business, both had been through acquisitions. And we also have another direct-to-consumer business that was acquired. So we have actually brought all of those businesses into a central technology organization. So we provide technology services across the enterprise. At the same time, we brought in our corporate functions, as well as our global investment. So it's a one-stop shop for all technology at Aflac. If you think about the organization, we have a bit of a line of business focus model today. So I have individual leaders running each of the line of business, individual, group, VB, PLADS, dental vision. And then those leaders also interface with my shared services organizations. I have a team that focuses largely on shared platforms. If you think of things like Pega, et cetera, also our integration layers. And then that shared team, I also have my data analytics and machine learning focus in that same team. We also have, of course, our core and infrastructure area that we're doing a lot of work in at the same time. And then I have a team that's really focused on technology business management, providing transparency of financials, and ensuring that we're managing our asset inventories correctly. So those in general are the focus areas for my organization.
Again, a great overview, Shelia. Thank you for that. And I wonder, across the time of your tenure, I'd love to maybe have you reflect upon when you joined the organization you found versus what you've just described, your current purview. What were some of the early observations and modifications that you made based upon the organization you came to lead?
Yes. So coming into the organization, one of the first things that I noticed is since Aflac had grown through acquisition, there was a very disconnected governance model over technology in general. So if you think about leveraging your total investments and even understanding how much you're spending in technology across the whole ecosystem, that was a bit challenging to see because we had several of what we like to call our buy to build. So we're investing in buying capabilities and building and growing those as a company. We really didn't have a good line of sight into that. So really focusing in first things first for me was how do I bring line of sight and governance consistently over technology, even though they may not report into me. So that was a very early insight that I had. We need to have better visibility. The other thing that I noticed was transparency and understanding of financials here, how much you're investing and where, and how are we making decisions around investing in technology, the smart decisions, investing in the right things at the right time, and then expecting the right outcomes. So that was a level of focus that I had in bringing a consistency around transparency of financials, technology business management. And then the third observation was really focused on architecture, really needing to bring in a more enterprise-wide view of architecture to better leverage capabilities across the enterprise. You can imagine with growing through acquisition, you acquire a technology footprint with every company that you acquire. And so over the years, that has resulted in duplicate capabilities. And I will say a bit of overspending because you are investing multiple times, 3 to 5 times in, for example, claim systems or onboarding capabilities or billing systems. So that's both the challenge and the opportunity for us now is really focusing in on what are the priorities and then how do we start streamlining some of these capabilities to deliver the best value for the company, consolidating where we can and optimizing the investment in those technologies to drive the highest value for Aflac and our customers.
Yeah, well, very interesting. And I know from our past conversations, Shelia, you've also been on a cloud journey
Yes.
and you've had an evolving data center strategy. Can you talk a bit about that and the foundation that you're laying there?
Absolutely. And I'll talk about the evolution of that as well. When I came into the organization 3 years ago, one of the programs that had recently been built as a strategy and actually funded was to do a lift and shift strategy to move all distributed capabilities to the cloud. When I came in, one of the things that I saw with the organization is I wasn't sure that that was going to be the right strategy for Aflac. And actually, even if you look at the price points of that, I think a more intentional approach to how we choose to migrate to the cloud was needed. So we backed off of that investment strategy and instead refocused efforts on planning and making sure that the organization was at a point of readiness when we were moving forward with that strategy to actually manage it appropriately and work with the providers that were going to be part of our ecosystem. So I focused first on slowing that down, honestly, and it is the right thing to slow things down, depending upon what your expectations are, and making sure that we are investing in educating our own organization and making sure that we had the right people in the right seats to manage those new capabilities. So we spent about a year investing in retooling, educating, building our own cloud center of excellence internally, making that a central function so that we actually leverage it not only in the US, but across our Japan company as well. So we built that. And then, as we like to say here, we use the 3R approach. We want to focus on the right solution. We want to put it in the right place at the right price. So if you think about how we're looking at our cloud strategy, and I would say our hosting strategy is in general is, of course, we do have cloud native approach for all things new going into the cloud. That's something we're looking at. But everything else, we're really looking at right solution, right place, right price. So some of these distributed capabilities, for example, that are not our tier one or most critical applications, we may leave them in distributed if they're running at a price point that's acceptable for us today. So it's really balancing the approach to the cloud with being able to take advantage of emerging capabilities, and then also really looking at a more strategic lens of how are you modernizing and which applications do you want to target to be cloud native as part of your tier one strategy for your organization.
Yeah, interesting. It seems like a variety of aspects of the conversation so far are about providing that priority and focus for the organization and recasting a few things based upon some of the conclusions you're drawing. Shelia, I also know from our past conversations that an area of focus strategically is on a unified group strategy for the organization. I wonder if you can talk a bit about what is intended by a unified group strategy, but also the role the technology plays in it.
Of course. So thank you for that question. I love that. So it does tie into our strategy as a company. And as I mentioned previously, in the group space, we actually have grown through acquisition, dental and vision plans, and then our group BB. And typically, because you do have three different acquired approaches, three different ecosystems, typically what you would see if you interacted with many of those solutions today, you would see Aflac presenting how our businesses are aligned outward to our customers. And the focus of the integrated strategy is truly to integrate across all of those businesses to enable a seamless experience, a one-stop view for all of those products so that we can sell those into the respective markets as an integrated solution. Ultimately, that'll give us the opportunity to streamline those services to our customers and to make it a seamless experience overall. How we're doing that is we are not investing in replacing all of these backends in the beginning. So we're truly focusing on, if you think about everything from our request to quoting process around how are we going in and thinking about selling those services to our customer base or at the work site, and then how are we then administering those capabilities and what's the experience of individuals leveraging those capabilities? We want that to be very seamless and integrated. So we're focusing on that integration layer, the front end layer, and then connecting the back ends in a seamless fashion so that our companies are not being presented. It's not being presented as three different companies. You're seeing a one Aflac view of how you experience a day in the life as a group customer for Aflac.
Related to what we've discussed has also been some people change associated with the understandable changes that you and the team are working on. Can you talk a bit about your talent strategy and how you've thought about its evolution?
Yes. So one of the things when I came into the organization, I always like to make sure that we have the right people doing the right work. And when I looked across the ecosystem, I saw a heavy reliance on many different third-party partners. So that was one. We had far too much reliance on partners to deliver the work, and not just a few partners, but many. So I knew that strategy had to change. And then, of course, we took the approach of really looking across all of our talent to say, what do we need in the future? Where are we going? What is our 3-year roadmap? And defining that roadmap first, our architectural lens, as I previously mentioned, and anchoring in on what does the view of our labor need to look like? And then where are we at today? What are our gaps? Where do we need to start indexing to hire more? And where are we going to start shifting the mix? And this has all been done during a time of optimization here. So it's been a challenge and opportunity at the same time. We also went through and aligned all of our talent to market approaches. So market approaches on job codes, on the compensation associated with that, making sure that we had career pathing within each of those. And it's been a huge endeavor. It's actually a multi-year initiative for us. We're wrapping it up this year. We started with what I call the easy button with our engineers, because we knew that engineering, we needed pretty much everyone that we had doing those engineering roles. So that was mapping out those roles. And this year we've been focused much more on all of the rest of the jobs, which is the oversight management roles, Scrum Master, a lot of the different capabilities that are more oversight roles, and making sure that we have the right ratios of those in the organization as well.
Fascinating and interesting to see how that's operated in parallel with some of what you described before, how the architecture in some ways has informed what talent and skills are necessary and acting accordingly.
Absolutely.
I wanted to also ask you about the use of data and ultimately deriving value from artificial intelligence. Can you talk a bit about the journey that you and the team are on relative to these topics?
Yes. So first I'll talk about the structure of the organization itself. I do have a centralized approach to both data and the analytics piece, which is in our business. And then we have our approach to AI, which is on the same team. So the data and the AI are heavily dependent functions, and we place them on the same team. Here at Aflac, we also have an innovation laboratory. We call it Hatch, Hatching New Ideas. And that's also within the same team. So one of the changes that I shifted to was to move all of those competencies together, our data analytics, our AI, as well as our approach to innovation and Hatch, because a lot of the ideation that's coming through, whether it be emerging technologies or needing prove-out capabilities, are largely related now to the Gen AI space. I would say the majority of them are. So we've tightly coupled that together. As you can imagine, also, there's a couple of pieces of it. One heavy dependency that we also have on a lot of the unified work that we're doing is on making sure that we have consistent view of unified view of customer, of policy information, of claims information. So that's a whole focus area of work that'll drive value for us. And then the other is the use of AI and generative AI technology. So I'll talk about that in the journey. So Aflac actually has had some huge success in what I'll term legacy AI. And if you think about looking at, I think there's about 9 different categories of AI. If you think about everything from heuristics, RPA, machine learning, NLP, OCR, IDP, all of that. We have a little bit of all of that in play driving value. One of our most successful AI solutions was implemented coming out of the around the pandemic and the early 2020 to 2022. We had a solution that was implemented, more machine learning and AI, and that one was implemented to focus on claims quality in the beginning. We had some challenges with claims quality, so the solution was developed. We call it code-based processing. It was developed as a foundational system to improve our claims quality. We achieved that very quickly, and then very quickly shifted to seeing other value through the use of that capability, which was being able to auto-adjudicate claims also. So not only make sure that the quality was great, but being able to look at thresholds and dollar values of claims and say, there's really no reason to be manually handling this. Let's auto-adjudicate. We implemented that across multiple lines of business. It's driven huge savings. We've achieved all of our goals in ROI and then some on that capability. It also was one of our CIO 100 award winners as well. So that's legacy now, still driving value in our business and still being deployed to additional lines of business at Aflac. So it's that gift that keeps giving, I will say. So that investment has more than paid for itself ongoing. If you shift over into generative AI, this is where I would say we have taken a more intentional approach. Today, we have quite a few proof of concepts. And of course, a lot of those are focused on helping us to solve problems. A lot of everything that we're doing is tied to priorities in the company and solving some of our biggest challenges and opportunities. So if you think about the investment on the defense side of AI, we're doing proof of concepts, as many are, in code, reverse engineering generation. We have several large, very dated mainframe technologies that we're looking at this as another option to determine if, in fact, we can leverage capabilities to help us reverse engineer some of those. There's really nothing in the marketplace that's 100% fit. So we're still looking at build, buy, can we reverse engineer? What is our strategy going to be in the future? And these generative AI capabilities are going to help us to figure out that path. And we're in the middle of that. And then leveraging those code gen capabilities in general across our developer community is something that we're doing. And if you think about flipping over to the actual business value side, we've got quite a few things that are either in our pipeline or either in proof of concept. What we've done is we map it across our insurance value chain. If you think of it as pre-sales and product development, marketing and sales, policy administration, claims and billing. And so we've mapped the Gen AI asks against that. And then we evaluate those to determine what, in fact, would drive the highest value to the company. And so most of those are in the area of things like we've got some agent recommendations. We've got autonomous underwriting as a category, some of the passive and active agents, a little bit of the agentic AI approach that we're looking at, some sales insights and agent recruiting, I think, is a focus area in the future. Document imaging and scanning, all of the OCR and intelligent search is a big piece. We're looking at an area as part of our unified approach, a group onboarding, right? So how do we leverage AI capabilities or Gen AI capabilities to help with the whole customer or group onboarding process? And so that ties into one of our critical goals for the company. And then more of those types of capabilities is what you see. So we're really tying in most of what we're doing to priorities for our business. And so today, we're not necessarily setting aside this proof of concept bucket of dollars because we're actually seeing opportunities to leverage it with the work that we have to do already in our ecosystem.
Brings to mind that last point you raised, but also a thread through the entire conversation. I know a mantra of yours is know your why. And I wonder if you could talk a bit about sort of the thought process behind that, how you think of that as a prioritization mechanism.
Absolutely. And that starts, I always love to say that it all starts with why and understanding the business need behind the work that you're doing. You have to anchor back to that business need. What is the opportunity, the upside, the challenge that you're solving for, and then think through the associated value that you expect to achieve in the business. So why are you doing this? Why invest? That's a big part of how we look at prioritization. Anything that we do here, the way that we decide where we put our dollars at work is through assessing against business priority first. So those things that have the highest opportunity for return are either, of course, we have a lot of compliance and regulatory, we have to do those, but the other ones are truly assessed against multiple criteria, business value, return on investment, and those are the things that we fund to move forward.
Very well articulated. Thank you, Shelia. I wonder, as you look to the future, are there other trends that particularly excite you, Shelia, that are making their way among your priorities, or at least in the bucket of things to potentially pursue as time goes on?
Well, I think for us too, the whole agentic AI is an area, of course. Everything around AI is still emerging, and I always love that phrase. The technology that you're experiencing today is the least immature that it's going to be on the day that you're experiencing it. So think about the maturity curve of these technologies. They're just increasing every day. So there's a learning every day. So I think agentic AI is one definitely that I think has the opportunity to shape some of our experiences of the future. I think that's going to be something to watch, definitely.
A great insight, Shelia, and I look forward to remaining abreast of how the organization progresses in its use of it. I also wanted to ask you here at the close, anything you've recently read, listened to, and/or watched that you would recommend to peers?
Oh, of course. I'm a big podcast listener on the way into work, and I have a couple that I like to listen to, and some of them are different. So one of the ones that I enjoy listening to is The Future of Everything. It's the Stanford Research podcast. It just challenges you a little bit, thinking out of the box. And then I've actually spent some time with Lex Fridman when I was in Boston. So I enjoy following Lex actually back in the day when he was doing a lot of work with MIT. So I enjoy that. And then the other one that I listen to related to AI is the AI Daily Brief. Enjoy that one, of course, as well. And on the reading side, I will tell you, I actually am rereading an old read that I've actually had for a number of years by Agrawal. I think it's The Prediction Machines. That's one that I've pulled back out, and I see that it's still on a top 20 HBR book list. So I would recommend that one definitely as a good read.
All great suggestions, Sheila. Thank you for those. And thank you, more generally speaking, for a great conversation. It's wonderful to hear more about the remarkable progress you and the team have made across the, again, roughly 2.5 years that you've been in your role, and look forward to remaining abreast of continued progress in the months and years ahead. Thank you so much for taking time with me today.
Thank you, Peter.